Hello everyone, so today I want to talk about our newest addition to this roster, Quency Escape Queen. She is a alternative addition to our existing Real Kindness Squad Quency, and she is added based off of the event Fenton Thief / Detective. So yeah, let's take a look at her kit and where she plays in the game. As you can see, Quency is now dressed in a much more form-fitting outfit, and she is a SMG user, and as you can see, she actually uses dual SMG. The default SMG is actually 120 bullets, and however, that's 120 bullets per magazine. So when she's shooting, for every bullet count that goes down, it's actually 2 bullets coming out, which means if you can see here as her kit info, while it only says it's 5.06% of her attack damage, it's actually double because there is double the amount of bullets hitting the enemy. Alright, let's take a look at her skill kit. Her first skill, Secure Routes, adds additional distributed damage and also adds core damage and critical rate depending on the stage of her second skill, which is Explore Route. Okay, Explore Route is a effect that is determined by the amount of hits applied, and this is interesting, right? It says lands 2 normal attacks, which is 1 bullet count, and also stage 1 effect itself, it basically stacks hit rate and attacks. Stage 2 also stack rate and attack. Each one is hitting 10 times. However, when you say 10 times, it actually means the 20 bullets on each gun total, but 10 bullets on the ammo capacity. And the stage 3 also stacks up hit rate and attack. So basically, what you really need to know is the fact that stage 1 takes 10 ammo count to get to. Stage 2 takes another 10 ammo count, and stage 3 takes another 5, so total of 10, 20, and 25 for each stage. And during each stage, you're gonna get a continuous addition buff that is applied to her. And total between skill 1 and skill 2, when you have a skill 2 complete ramp up, you are going to get critical rate of increase by 16.73%, and you're going to get 61.1 accuracy and 110% attack. Well, technically 110.3 attack. That is a lot of buff in terms of attack values, but this also means that she is very similar to Asuka. She will be a character that is very good when the buff from your support is not attack value, but attack damage or specific attack multiplier. But character like Leader that adds pure attack value will be a little bit less useful on Quency. And total between skill 1 and skill 2, when you have a skill 2 complete ramp up, you are going to get critical rate of increase by 16.73%, and you're going to get 61.1 accuracy and 110% attack. Well, technically 110.3 attack. That is a lot of buff in terms of attack values, but this also means that she is very similar to Asuka. She will be a character that is very good when the buff from your support is not attack value, but attack damage or specific attack multiplier. But character like Leader that adds pure attack value will be a little bit less useful on Quency. The hit rate bonus is actually pretty important, as a 61.1% will increase her core damage, will increase the effectiveness of her core damage because SMG is a fairly inaccurate weapon. If you take a look right here, the spread is pretty much everywhere, right? So you want to get as much hit point as you can, hit rate as you can, especially on a boss or enemy that is a little bit further away than normal. Her skill 3 is the Great Thief, and this is a pretty straightforward skill. This increases attack damage by 57.08, increase reload speed by 25.87, and also deals distributed damage as an AoE wipe. This will actually help you to clear some of the screen missiles quite a bit. What you need to know is the fact that so basically her normal kit, her weapon, has a typical reload speed of 1 second, and when you have a 1 second plus a 0.2 second of turning around and reload, that means each one of her reload takes 1.2 seconds. And this means that if you do not have any kind of reload buff, or you do not have if you also do not have resilience cube, every single time she reloads, she will lose her stage 2 and stage 3 explore route buff and secure route buff. You will fall back to stage 1 buff. So exactly how much reload speed does Quency needs? If you take a look at her skill 2 explore route, her stage 1 expires after 2 seconds of not firing, stage 2 expires after 1 second, stage 3 expires after 0.5 second. Please note that animation of reload takes about 0.2 seconds at the minimum for just turning back. And there is of course the reloading animation itself. And if you have Quency, her max out burst 3 will reduce her reloading speed by 25.87%. And she is pretty much tied to the resilience cube. You would definitely want to use this. Resilience cube increased reload speed of 29.69. So total, it actually increased her reload speed to 55.56. However, this is not enough to keep her in escape route number 2, because you do need to keep it under a second, and a reload speed of 55% is just not gonna cut it. She needs 74.5% reload speed to keep herself at escape route number 2 most of the time, and she's going to need a reload speed of 99.8. Honestly, at this point, I would just recommend it to get to 100, so she doesn't even need the reload animation at all, and this will keep her at escape route number 3. So let's take a look at which Nikkei she should pair with to have a high enough reload speed to keep her escape route at anything higher than rank 1. So the main field support I would recommend to pair with Quency Escape Queen would be either Crown, which provides a reload speed buff of 44.35%. This means that you will push her reload speed to be exactly 99.91%. Fast enough for you to not lose escape route during burst animation, but this also means that she will still go through the burst animation, which is a little bit of a time waster, but that's all right, because Crown herself, if you want to pair her up with just Crown, provides enough additional attack bonus already. Secondly, you also can pair her up with 2 other characters. First will be Summer Anise. She provides a reload speed of all allies of 22.72%. The first one doesn't really work because Quency is not electrical code, and 55.56 plus 27.72, this will put her to 83.58%. This hits the 74.5 reload speed threshold mark. This also means that with her, you can actually keep a maximum of escape route number 2 instead of falling to 1, which will be a bonus. And lastly, you can pair her up with Privity. Privity is pretty good as well at skill number 9 of 48.02%. Already keeps you at 48.02, will keep you at 103.88. This means that your Quency no longer needs to reload, and at skill 10, of course, it will bring it even higher, which is at 106.72. This means that Quency, of course, anything over 100% reload means that the character will no longer do the turning back animation, which does incredibly increase their total damage by a bit. I wouldn't say a lot, depending on the amount of ammo that you have on your characters, but it will definitely help out your character overall output. Alright, so what about her skill distribution? First of all, her skill 1, while it seems pretty useful, it increased distributed damage continuously, increased core damage, also increased critical rate. The overall damage increase per level is actually not that great. If you can see, it only increased core damage by 20.65 to 21.8, and this increases linearly. I think overall from level 1 to level 10, it only increases about roughly 10% of her total damage. For skill 2, Explore Route, it increases her hit rate and her attack value. As we previously mentioned, it increases a lot of attack value up to 110.3% and 61.1% accuracy hit rate. This is very important later on for her to hit core and to increase her damage output. So this is a very high proposition and very high growth skill. Her lastly is her burst skill, and as you can see, for each level it does increase attack damage by roughly 2.5% and also increase the reload speed, which is also needed to hit some of her required reload speed threshold. So what do we recommend for the skill levels? If you are a new player, I do recommend initially to get her skill to 466, possibly when you first starting to play. Later on, as you progresses through the game, I would definitely recommend a skill level of 410.9. The last reload speed it has a very high investment, but it's not necessary to use it to hit maximum reload speed, right? The only exception is when you only pair her with Crown, you are going to need both skills at maximum to achieve 99.91%. Other than that, if you are going with Privity and the Emmys, you are going to have an overload number of reload speed. So burst skill is definitely not as important initially, so you can stick with level 9, but once you have enough books, I do suggest you to max out burst skill. So eventually, the end result, I will recommend 6, 10, 10, because number 6 still provides some growth. It's just lower than 6. Well, it's a decent stop at the investment of something that doesn't increase her overall damage that much. So before we talk about her overload gear, I think we should probably cover her current position in the team. First of all, she is a really good damage dealer. In fact, she is actually one of the top one at the moment. As you can see, I was able to get the highest of my guild, and the main thing is that she is a attack character that is burst 3 character that can matches the output of, say, Modernia, even outcompete her a little bit in some degrees. However, her biggest problem on her end is the fact that she is a character that will need you to do full manual control instead of auto. Since the last patch, maybe 2 months ago, the game has made some changes to the way game works. Right now, if you turn off your auto mode for your Nikes, there is a native plus 15% hit rate bonus that the game decided to give to you to reward your effort of playing the game manually. This plus 15% hit rate actually applies to both your current characters and your entire team that is currently on auto. Just to let you know, some people think that this only applies to your currently controlled team. No, it doesn't. It applies to your entire team. So this means that for shotgun team, this is actually something that you have to turn off the entire time to increase your shotgun accuracy. So for Quency though, if you can see, this boss has a very small core on the screen. If you do attack right now, this is under auto, right? This only covers its body, but it doesn't really cover the cores. So as you can see, the number of core attack doesn't really go that often. It's maybe half of it, I would say. However, if you go around and turn off auto aim, you will increase a vast increase of core hits on the screen. This is because of the 15% chord, additional chord accuracy will actually increase her total amount of, well, it basically decrease the aiming zone and increase her output by quite a bit. The breaking point of hit point for Quency is actually also pretty important as well. You are going to need to hit 91 to 93% to make sure all the cores are actually, all your bullet goes to the center core and doesn't stray away from it. You're going to need a hit rate about 80% plus, depending on how close the boss is, to make sure roughly about 80 to 90% of the bullets hits the core instead of hitting the body or just straight out misses. And at her default of 61 hit rate from her skill and her burst buffs, she is only going to hit about 50% of the core time. As you can see right here, that is a pretty accurate estimation. Okay, as you can see, there's a lot of misses here just on the core, right? But if you turn it off, even though the boss is now further away, the core hit happens much more often. So what you really going to need on overload gear is that you want to get at least one overload, I would say plus rank 10 overload to get her to certain thresholds. Because first of all, you have a default of 61.1% hit rate from her skills, and you have 15% from turning off the auto aim, right? So this will put her at 76%. For her to get around 80% to 90% core accuracy, which will boost her damage by quite a bit, you are going to need at least one overload on her entire gear. Don't have to go for two. While two will be very, very good for your total accuracy overall, you really, if you're lucky, go for two. If you want to spend a lot of money onto her, a lot of stones onto her, go for two. Other than that, just one is enough. One is the minimum recommendation, I would say. The rest of her kit, her overload is pretty standard. It's just 1 ammo minimum and 3 attack and 1 elemental. So for example, on my end, I have 2 ammo and 2 attack and 1 elemental. This means that I am still off 1 attack and 2 elemental and 1 hit rate. So I have some work to do on my Quency, even though she just doesn't want to get good overload gears for some reason. Hey. And also, alternatively, what you need to be aware for Quency is the fact that she also needs, I wouldn't say need, but having a doll will help her out with her damage value by quite a bit. First of all, different than most of other dolls, the skill of a normal SMG doll is actually normal attack damage multiplier up by 6.3%. This means that this will flat out increase her damage by 6.3%. That is a lot more than what a lot of other doll does. And also, I will actually kind of recommend you to increase her to max out and increase her doll to SR as well if you can afford it, due to the fact that once you level up your Quency, she will be the prime target of your boss, and boss's attack on Quency hurts a lot because Quency has absolutely no survival skill on her, even though she's supposed to be a phantom thief that is good to dodge, that is good to evade the detective, right? But in this case, in the storyline, she also does not really do that. So with that being said, let's take a look at exactly where she falls in terms of damage values. All right, this is the current team that I'm using Quency for during my solo raid. This is because of this boss. Land Eater is now a water weakness. And as you can see, I pair her up with a Summer Annie's to increase her reload speed to pass Explore Route number 2. She is actually a fairly flexible character in terms of buffers. There's nothing that she really goes completely like doesn't really work. What she doesn't have a buffer. In fact, even without Summer Annie's, it doesn't really take her that long to ramp up her Explore Route. So she is a fairly flexible character with her team compositions. You basically just stick her with whichever support or buff you can give her, as long as it is usable in a sense. Her overall damage is actually pretty good. If you want to compare in the screen right now, she actually damages she out damages Lamilla by a little bit, by about roughly 5%, I would say. In most cases, you need to be aware that on the current screen, Lamilla actually provides 12% attack buff to damage buff to everybody. So that includes when you comparing Lamilla and Quency Escape Queen. So that the difference is a little bit overvalued, because if you have other teammates other than the Quency, Lamilla will also give the similar additional damage buff to her other teammates. Secondly, when you compare her to Modernia, they are pretty much head-to-head in a sense. It depends really on the core placement of the boss, the distance of the boss, because Machine Gun, once ramp up in this game, has a beam-like accuracy. She just straight like a freaking laser with her attacks with just one hit point, one hit rate. And at the same time, Quency will still struggle a little bit on the boss that has a smaller core, or core that's further away for her to hit 100%. However, at the same time, if you take a look right now, they are both having very selfish kits, and they are both roughly output about the same damage, which is quite a bit, because Modernia has been our DPS queen in raid for the first 1.5 years, until got dethroned when the SBS and the Red Hood got released. All right, so here's a golden question, right? Is Quency Escape Queen worth your summon ticket? And is she a good DPS? Overall, I would say yes. She is definitely a tier 0.5 damage output dealer. She has some potential in PvP, I would say. It depends on how we're going to use her, due to her burst, and due to her burst has a screen team wipe as well. And on top of that, she is also a very, very good PvE characters. In fact, her DPS currently, I would say tie, or sometimes outperforms Modernia. It really depends on the boss. If the boss has a core that is a little bit too far away for Quency to hit 100%, Modernia will tie, will output her, will outplaces her, because Machine Gun in this game for some reason hits like a freaking laser beam, okay? She is worse than the Scarlet Black Shadow and Alice combo. She's also worse than Red Hood. She's definitely better than the Plus, Scarlet, and slightly better than Winter Lamilla. However, you can argue the fact that Winter Lamilla, being another water DPS, also buffs her team by 12.2%. So the overall damage output with Winter Lamilla on your team instead of Quency Escape Queen might not actually be worse. She actually might be better for the team overall if you have a strong DPS to pair with her. She is certainly better than the rest of the DPS characters, for example, Summer Annie's. Summer Annie's has been relegated to mostly buffing skills now, and she is also better than a lot of other characters such as Sakura and also Asuka as well. If you have, or if you are a regular pass buyer, I would definitely recommend you to buy at least one copy of her, because she is a very, very useful water damage type characters that is going to be useful for solo raids and union raids. If you care for both of them or just care a little bit of PvP potential as well, I would definitely recommend to get one copy of her. She is not a limited character. This means that she will return to the general polls maybe after 2 or 3 events, so probably after anniversary event. And if you are free to play, you can judge whether you want her or not. She is, I will not, if you're free to play and doesn't care for solo raids or not your priority right now, she is not necessary to pull, because if you have Winter Lamilla, if you do not have Winter Lamilla, on the other hand, she is a really good water type DPS, because so far all the main water type DPS we have in this skin are limited edition characters. For example, you have Emilia, you have Ram. So if you want to use, if you need a water damage, definitely consider Quency, Escape Artist. And if you are a paying players, and of course she is a must-have in order for you to participate or compete in solo raids. And yeah, what else can I say? She is a very good character at the current kit and at the current moment. I'm not entirely sure where her future beholds, because it looks like the last couple of Nikkeis that has been released all has fairly high damage output. This means that either we are going to have a very high, I would say, power creep is coming up for Anniversary 2.0, or Shift Up is really going for per element team, and that is to incentivize for pulling for even more characters. All right, that's it. That is my review for Quency Escape Queen. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And if you like my content, please help me out, subscribe and like the channel. I think this actually boosts my algorithm over time. I can actually see the little benefit overall now. And that is pretty much it. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.